soldiers loyal to sacked Vice President Dr. Riek Machar and says several people are now wounded and are seeking refuge at the UN mission.
An attack at the SPLA General Headquarters near Juba University. By a group of soldiers allied to the former Vice President Dr. Riek Machar.
My name is Bright Nana Amfo, and this is our big story for today. The alleged attempted coup is a manifestation of months of political unrest, which escalated in July when President Salva Kiir dismissed his deputy, Dr. Riek Machar. Mr. Machar and other senior politicians accused the president of intolerance and dictatorship. In recent weeks, Mr. Kiir has warned of attempts to instigate political instability amid bouts of ethnic violence. Differences between Dr. Machar and Mr. Kiir shows the complex ethnic and political divisions across the poor nation. Mr. Kiir from the majority Dinka ethnic group and Mr. Machar from the second largest, the Nuer group, have both been at odds in a scramble over the spoils that independence brought on. Now, these divisions extend to the army, which owes allegiance to the politicians. This instability in South Sudan is worsened by the presence of many illegal guns, mostly from the years of war with Sudan. And even though the authorities say they have put down the latest unrest, it is clear more challenging days lie ahead for the new state. Tensions have been high in South Sudan, the world's youngest country, since President Kiir dismissed his entire cabinet, including his deputy, Dr. Riek Machar, in July in an apparent power struggle. Thanks so much for staying there for today's big story. Let's go straight to South Sudan, Juba, where Anne Haxman de Costa is a journalist there. Anne, thanks so much for your time.
Good evening.
Now, first of all, has the sacked vice president responded to the allegations that soldiers loyal to him are involved in the failed coup plot?
Excuse me, can you repeat it? I'm not hearing. The line is very bad.
Right.
Let me speaking. There is a shooting ongoing.
Let me try once again. I'm asking if the sacked vice president has responded to the allegations.
Sorry, the line is very unclear, but at the moment, as we speak, there is shooting ongoing. And people are all in their houses because there is a curfew at 6 o'clock. The president said it is a coup, but it can also be the start of a civil war. I have been in contact with all my colleagues who are in the city, and some of the people were sent out of their homes by the army today because that was an area having fighting. Other people were sent back to the compounds when they were looking outside. We have seen people fleeing. Apparently, people are fleeing to the UN, but people are also fleeing outside of Juba. In my area was fine, but then we shots from different areas of town, especially later in the night from the area of the hospital. Also, our street is heavily armed. There are a lot of soldiers who have heavily armed at the moment. We don't know about the casualties yet. The hospital is completely full of people who are wounded, and there are also dead people. So everybody is afraid at the moment what's going to happen now.
Where is a sacked vice president?
Sorry.
I'm asking, where is Dr. Riek Machar?
We don't know the reason why they started fighting. The only thing what we heard is it started yesterday around 10 o'clock. And there were apparently two factions within the SPLA who are fighting. So that is the part of the ex-vice president, Riek Machar, and people loyal to the president, Salva Kiir.
Now,
there is a lot of rumors going on. The president said it was a coup, and that Riek Machar, the ex-vice president, is arrested. But other people are saying no, he took refuge in the UN compound. We don't know.
Let me find out once again. Did you say that some arrests have been made?
Sorry, the connection is really bad. I'm not getting your question clear, but one of the things that I can say is this conflict is not only between the military, it's also between the leaders. It's a tribal conflict. It's political. It's also historically. Riek Machar, since a long time, he wanted to be with Sudan, while Salva Kiir, he wanted to get a South Sudan. So the fight is big, and everybody in South Sudan is just, we're going to sleep and we're waiting what's going to happen in the night.
Right, Annie Haxma de Costa, thanks so much for speaking to us. She is in Juba, the South Sudanese capital there, and a curfew imposed there from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Let me speak to a political scientist, Dr. Bosman Asari, a senior lecturer, Political Science Department at the University of Ghana. Dr. Asari, is it baffling that in this time when Africa is trying to move deeper into the journey of democracy, we have the announcement of a failed coup in South Sudan?
Hello.
Hello, Dr. Bosman, can you hear me?
The line is breaking.
Right, the line is breaking. Let me try and see if we can get it better. Now, I'm asking that, is it baffling that once again, the announcement of a failed coup d'etat, I've lost Dr. Bosman on phone there. Dr. Bosman is a senior lecturer, Political Science Department, University of Ghana. But Elbad Ibrahim is an international news analyst, and he's just joined me in the studio. Now, Elbad, it is quite baffling to me that at this time when Africa is trying hard to deepen democracy, we have the announcement of a failed coup in South Sudan. That's the youngest country in the world.
For me, it's not a surprise at all. When you look at the pattern of the events on the continent in the past 6 years or so, since 2008, there has been at least one coup on the African continent ever since. In 2008, there was a coup in Mauritania. In 2009, there was another in Madagascar. In 2010, there was a coup in Niger. And there was the violent toppling of Gaddafi in 2011. There were 2 coups in 2012 in Guinea-Bissau and then in Mali.
So you are not baffled at all?
I'm not at all surprised.
All right, hold it there. I'll come back for us to talk about what worries you. Let me again try and pick Dr. Bosman Asari, senior lecturer, Political Science Department, University of Ghana, there on the line. Now, Dr. Asari, I was asking that, is it shocking, is it baffling that we have the announcement of a coup d'etat when Africa is trying hard to deepen democracy?
Before, good evening to you and to the viewers. I would say it shouldn't be seen as shocking because South Sudan is a new democratic country. Usually in countries that practice democracy, when you start initially, there are about to be a lot of challenges. And when you look at even Sudan in general, they had a lot of problems, and South Sudan deciding to become an independent entity, they also had a lot of internal skirmishes. The sacking of the deputy president did not go well with those who supported him. So usually in such countries, they tend to be very volatile. These are countries that are embracing democracy. And when you are embracing democracy, your institutions are not that strong. So these things are about to happen. So we shouldn't see it as something that is shocking.
This is a situation where those who are alleged to have engaged in that act are accusing the leadership and the President Salva Kiir as being intolerant and a dictator. But it sends a wrong signal because this is a country that is trying to remain stable after getting away from its main father, Sudan.
Yeah, and that's the truth because as I indicated, usually newly democratic societies, the institutions are not there. So it's always natural or normal for you to have the president vested with a lot of powers. And when you look at the South Sudan constitution, it's very clear that the president is vested with a lot of powers. These powers allow the president to do several appointments which we shouldn't expect to happen in a normal democracy. So under such a scenario, those who join forces with him to become independent as a country, etc., are going to feel aggrieved, and they will always want to fight back. And considering the fact that their man, the deputy president, was giving the marching orders, it really should send a signal that things are not well within his camp. So they might want to fight back. And usually, even in Ghana, we have advanced, several countries have advanced in the democracy, but you can still see elements of dictatorship in our governance. And South Sudan being a new country, these things are about to happen, and it's going to be like that for the next 10 or so years.
Thank you so much for speaking to me. Dr. Bosman Asari is a senior lecturer at the Department of Political Science, University of Ghana. They're talking to me about the situation in South Sudan. Let me come back to the studio now. Ibrahim, you also think same that it is not we should not be baffled, but you said your worry is what?
I have a certain worry, Bright, but in the meantime, we shouldn't put the head of the sacked deputy president on the chopping block. We don't have the full complements of what really happened yesterday, and therefore we can't ascertain the veracity of what the current president is telling us until this guy rests his head. Right. Because we haven't heard his version of the story. I agree with the doctor that in most countries, when they are just embracing democracy or statehood, it is normal that during the early years they will have some periods of turbulence. Right. You can liken the current president to our own Nkrumah. Nkrumah had to rule with an iron fist at a point in time to put things right. So the accusation of dictatorship and authoritarianism,
it will come in.
That's what
you're saying.
But my worry is when you look at the mosaic of the coups that have taken place since 2008, as I have indicated. The Westerners used to either support or stand against a coup during the Cold War, whether you drifted to the east or to the west. We saw what happened, and declassified documents indicate that there was a hidden hand of the CIA in the toppling of our own former president Nkrumah. But since 2008, what happens is, Bright, if you are not happy with a particular government, you go topple the government. And in the meantime,
through the opposition in there.
Through the opposition, you can do it through the barrel of the gun, or it could be bloodless. But in the meantime, certain Western countries find themselves in bed with such people, and they allow such despots to be part of the transition period. That is what I think should be discouraged. In Mali, when the Sonogo guy carried out the coup, the guy should have been told point blank that it was wrong and should have been tried at the International Criminal Court. But the international community felt like, well, we could embrace him, we can cajole him into transiting the country into a democratic country. Earlier this year in March, the Central African Republic, we also saw that as well. So these people are reading the signs and they can see the writings on the wall. That is why they take certain moves.
So it means that when there's a need to push for something and they're not getting it, then they embark on this kind of adventures so that then the international community will come in and say that let's bring them on board and talk to them. Is that what you're saying?
Contemporary coups are internally orchestrated, but they are not funded externally. They will leave you to your fate. Some people go and they don't succeed, just like the reports we are getting from Juba right now. Had they succeeded, we would have seen the international community, whether in the case of Russia or China, or the United States or France or Great Britain, either being on their side or being against them. So that is the current pattern, and it should be discouraged, because the only way you can ascend the throne of any country is through the ballot box and not through the barrel of the gun. And therefore, I think it's worrying, and therefore the earlier we tackled it, the better for us. The motivation for such a coup, South Sudan is an interesting country. When the Arab army was marching from the Middle East, they captured the Horn of Africa and then captured North Africa. The people they first came into contact with were the Sudan, and Sudan is an Arabic word which means black people. We are south of the Sahara, but our color is lighter than the Sudanese people, and therefore the Arabs have dominated the people for so long. They are the indigenous people, the sons of the land of Sudan, and therefore it was a good news for us in 2011 when they were given the opportunity to rule themselves, and they took away a chunk of the oil reserves of the country. The UN made it clear to the Arabs, the people in Khartoum, that the people should take 3/4 of the oil reserves, and they were given that. So it comes as a surprise that some internal wrangling has led
will
to
come
such,
about as a result of
fate.
the fight for resources.
Yeah.
Now let's look at the president now. Salva Kiir comes from an ethnic group different from that of the vice president. Now he's accusing the vice president of being involved in this particular failed coup attempt. Do you think that these ethnic groups from the beginning were not together, but have now have to come together to form a country? Could it be the reason why we're beginning to see this?
In terms of statehood, everybody wants to exude gallantry and unity in the face of challenges. So it is normal that people of diverse race and tribes may want to coalesce and come together to fight a certain cause. And the cause they were fighting for, the black people of Sudan, the cause they were fighting for was for independence, and therefore independence was what they had in 2011. But what has happened in the past 24 hours, we are told, has got some ethnic undertones.
Right.
So if the majority people are there and perhaps they are not treating the minority well, if they would want to choose the barrel of the gun to turn the table against them, then that is exactly how they do it. But there's another point we are losing sight of. This country, Sudan, does not have a vibrant media. It is, I believe that it is quite impossible to carry out a coup in a country like Ghana where there are so many media houses. So for such countries, when you capture the state media, then you're able to get a firm grip of what is happening in the country.
Right.
But today, there are myriad media houses in this country. And therefore, another way we can stop the tide of coups on the continent is to engender freedom of speech, so that there will be a proliferation of media houses, there will be more education, there will be more political awareness for people to understand that ethnicity should not play any part in the governance of